Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's FAST class. My name is Jack Walther. I'm a consultant here at Syvantis. Today, we're going to be discussing Power Automate. We're going to be creating a Power Automate workflow from scratch and connecting it to our Dynamics 365 environment. As I'm walking through this, keep in mind that everything I'm doing here, while I am doing very specific actions in Power Automate and Dynamics, everything that we will be covering is pretty much applicable to most systems that you have out there. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to get started here. So what you can see here is right now I have my screen shared to Power Automate's homepage. If you're not familiar with Power Automate is Microsoft's workflowing tool that allows you to create very complex workflows between many different systems, Microsoft and non-Microsoft systems, without having to really write any code yourself. So it takes a lot of the work out of getting developers or having, long project build out times. You could do a lot of this all on your own right within Power Automate. And a lot of this stuff is included in your existing Microsoft licensing. So if you can get standalone Power Automate licenses, but if you've got CRM, if you got Business Central or one of the other major Microsoft products, you may already have a lot of this stuff included in your license that you're just not using. So take a look at that. But we're going to get started here and walk through how to actually create some of these on your own. So what we're going to do in this specific demo is a lot of times we have scenarios where someone has Dynamics 365 sales, so CRM, and they want to know when new records are created. So prior to Power Automate existing, you often had to have integration tools that monitor that kind of thing, or you would write code within those systems themselves, in this case, CRM. Power Automate allows you to do all this on your own with a great user interface without having to really know all the back-end stuff to make it happen. So I'm going to create a workflow here in Power Automate that will send emails to me, or in this case, we'll pretend like I'm a manager or someone who needs to monitor, when new accounts are created in CRM. And it's also going to update specific things in the record. So in this case, the scenario that I'm going to play out is, let's say you have an account number field on an account in CRM, and you want that to be set automatically. In this Power Automate workflow, we're going to set that account number when something's created and notify me via email that it has been created so I can monitor what's going on. As I build this, not everything I do here is going to really be kind of a real world scenario. The account number I'm going to make is not super realistic, but apply your actual logic to this. I'm going to do a very simplified version of it, but you can get extremely complex within Power Automate. So keep all that in mind. This is not a one-to-one, this is what you should do, but this is to give you a general idea of what can be done and how easy it is to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by creating a workflow here. So in Power Automate, I'm going to go to the My Flow section on the left here, and I'm going to go to the New Flow button on the left. What's really nice about Power Automate is they have all sorts of pre-made templates for you. So, if you have a general idea of what you want to do, you can check out these flows and they'll kind of make a skeleton for you that you fill in. In this case, I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to grab one of these, but then go with basically nothing on it so we can, show you what actually happens in Power Automate. So I'm going to click Automated Cloud Workflow here. I'm going to give this flow a name, and I'm going to call it New Account Workflow. And right here is where you can specify all the different, starting points you want. I'm going to do skip so we get to the actual building screen so you can see, all the components of what you would actually do here. So we click skip, you're going to start off with a blank canvas, if you will, with an option here to ask you to specify a trigger. A trigger is basically what starts this workflow. You can have it be a manual button that you press within CRM or a Power App or wherever you want it, or you can have Power Automate watch things that are being done in various systems. In this case, in CRM, we're going to have a trigger of a Dataverse trigger that says when an account is created. One little bit confusing thing that's going on here is Dynamics 365. When you go into CRM, you're just going to see Dynamics everywhere. The database itself is called Dataverse. So anytime we want to do anything with data from CRM, from Dynamics 365, you're going to come to this Dataverse trigger here, and that's going to give you access to all the data there. It's just a naming thing. It is the real data. There's not, layers between it that you need to be aware of. It's just what Microsoft has called the database. So I'm going to select the database trigger here, or Dataverse trigger here, and it's going to give me the different options that I can use to start this flow. So I have a couple options here. So one is to attack this into a business process. That's a little bit more advanced. The other one is start this workflow when something is added, modified, or deleted, and then when an action is performed. In this case, I want this to run automatically when a new account is created. So I'm going to do this when a row is added, modified, or deleted. And the next step, what will happen here, if you haven't done this before, is it's going to have you authenticate to make sure you're hooked up to the right environment. I'm authenticated, so it didn't go through any of that. So if you get another screen popping up, not a big deal. It just wants to make sure it knows which environment to connect to. And then from there, the first option you're going to have is to change the type. Now, the type is what is actually starting this. So as you click on it, it's going to be pretty intuitive what these mean. This is just when this flow is going to run. So you can do it on add or delete, add or modify, add, modify, or delete, or individual versions of those. In this case, I just want this to run when something is added, a new account is added. So I'm going to choose the added option. And then the table name, this is going to be the record that you're actually running this workflow for. So in this case, if you click on this, it's going to give you every different entity that exists in your CRM. In this case, I want to do accounts because that's all I want to be notified by. And then from there, you have scope, and scope is just who can run this and who can run this workflow and who it's going to run as. In this case, I'm going to do organization because I want everyone to run it. So from there, basically what you've got is a trigger. And then once you set your trigger, you add a step. And a step is going to be all the different data processing things you want to do here. So this is where I can do my own custom logic within Power Automate. This is where I can say, go connect to my Outlook or my Office 365 email and send an email out, or go back to CRM and update information or get information. Or, even go to like Salesforce if you want. For some reason, in this scenario, we've got two CRMs. You could have Power Automate takes Dynamics data and then send it to Salesforce or vice versa. So you can really do whatever within this. And all we have to do here is start specifying steps. So the first thing I want to do here in this flow, again, the flow is going to be to set an account number. And actually, I should show you where that field is. If I come back into CRM and I click new account here, you're going to see an account number field that is locked in the UI. I want this to be set automatically. So in Power Automate, what I'm going to do is have this workflow set that account number and then send out an email to me notifying that a new account was created. And here's the account number for it. So the first thing I want to do is create an account number within Power Automate here. It doesn't exist anywhere, so I have to basically compose it. So to do that, I'm going to create a variable for that account number. And you could just search for, there's these headers on here that allow you to see all the different steps that you can do, all the actions, stuff that's built in meaning it only exists in Power Automate. Standard, which is stuff that's going to be included in the base licensing. Premium is going to be if you have, a special system. Usually Power Automate can still connect to it, but it may need that additional licensing for that system. And then custom stuff if you're building your own. So you can use these headers. I'm familiar with these enough, so I could just search for what I want. In this case, I want a variable. And if I click variable, then it's going to give me all the different actions I can do with a variable. In this case, I want to initialize a variable. I want to create a variable to be my account number. So to create this variable, all I have to do is give it a name. And then I have to say what type it is. So you've got Boolean, which is true, false, integer, which is a whole number, float, which is a decimal, string, which is text, object and array. Those are going to be more advanced. Those are more programming terms. So we're going to stay away from those for these. In this case, my account number can be anything. So I'm going to do a string here. So this is just saying that this is a text variable. And then from here, this is where I'm going to do not a real world scenario because it doesn't actually make a lot of sense. But we're going to set an account number automatically here based off a random number. I know I set this to a string. This is going to be a number, just kind of make that leap with me, but this could be something that's automatically done where maybe it takes the first, 3 digits off the account name and then the last 3 digits from somewhere else, or has a very specific number format. You can add all of that logic into this variable here. You can go check other systems to pull account numbers back. So you can do everything you want with these. In this case, I'm just going to do very simple. Just give me a random number in this database. So to do that, I'm going to click the value area here, and that's going to give me my dynamic selector, which is going to allow me to pull data from the previous steps, in this case, just the trigger. So I could see when an account is added, here's all the different data points on that account that I could use. So if you want to do special logic to create account numbers out of the name, you have that name there accessible for you to do, logic where you grab, 3 digits from or three characters from the name there. You can use any data point within that account. Or you can use this as expression, which is more, if you're familiar with Excel, it's kind of like those Excel equations, sums, whatever you do in Excel, it's very similar syntax to it, but allows you to create data out of anything. So in this case, I'm going to use the random expression. If you're not familiar with what these are, you can scroll through these. They do give definitions. I just happen to know that RAND is for random, but you can find that information online or find it in these lists here. So if I type random here, it tells me what I need to input into this. So in this case, it's going to say, give it a minimum value, which is an integer, so a whole number. So I'm going to say random between 0 and let's say 10,000 is the max. So when this function runs, it's going to give me a random number between 0 and 10,000. So all I have to do is click OK here, and that's going to add it in there. So now my variable, whenever this runs, is going to randomly get a number and set it to this account number variable. So then from there, what we want to do is we want to apply that to the actual account in CRM to set that account number. Now you do have to be a little bit careful here, because what if maybe in your scenario, it can't be done in my demo, but let's pretend you could be, is someone could specify that account number, or you could generate it yourself. So in this case, I would never want to overwrite something that someone's given to me. So I can add logic to check what's there before I actually do anything inside of CRM. So I'm going to do a condition here, which is going to be a control action here. And this is going to allow me to do an if-else scenario to see, if I should perform this action. So in this case, I want to see if there is an account number that was entered into that account when it was created. So I can search for account. Account number. So now I can see this is the data point from that account. So I can select that, and now I can actually compare what's in that. So if this account number is equal to, and then I specify what I want it to be. One little tricky thing here is blank isn't really a thing in Power Automate. So I'm going to see if it's null. Null indicates that there is no value, and null is just an expression. So null is blank, null is nothing. So basically I'm saying if account number is equal to nothing, then I can put what I wanted to do over here in the yes statement. And if it isn't equal to nothing, meaning there is something there, then it would fall over to the no side. So I'm going to write null here because that is the value I want to check for. So if account number is equal to null, then I'm going to do this action. So if it's equal to null, it means I have no account number. So I want to go set that account number for that account. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the Microsoft Dataverse connector here. And then it's going to list out all the things I can do in Dataverse in CRM. This is the database. And one of those options is going to be update a row. So now with the update a row, I have to say what type of record I'm updating. In this case, still going to be account. I'm just going to go back to that account and say, here's your new account number. And then I have to specify what account I'm trying to target here, because technically I could target any account in all of this CRM environment, but I really already know I need to set the account number on the one that was just created. So what I can do here is this row ID is the actual ID of the account. So all I have to do is type account, and one of the data points from this top trigger here is this account data point, which you can see is a unique identifier of that account. That is the row ID. So that means when I run this, it's going to target this specific account based off what was entered here on the trigger. And then from here, you could say I have all the different data points within that account. You could set anything you want within it. If you leave them blank, it's just going to do nothing. It's not going to overwrite anything. So then from here, I just want to go and set that account number field, which is right here. Now, in this case, what I want to do is I don't want to have to, record it manually or anything. It was automatically generated here, a random number in my account number variable. So all I have to do is then go put that variable inside of the update action here. So when I click on that, it's going to bring up this pane on the right, and you're going to see all the different data points that I have, one of them being my variable. So I'm just going to say, use the account number. So now when this updates, it's going to go find my specific account, and then it's going to update it with the account number from my variable. If there was an account number there, it's going to fall over to this if no side over here. Nothing's there, so nothing will happen. Nothing will be updated. So that way I'm never overwriting data, but if there is no account number, it's automatically going to set it for me. Now, the last step here is I just want to be able to notify me that a new account was created. So if anyone creates one, I know that it was there. And in this case, I'm just going to search for email, and it's going to bring up all the different connectors you could email from. For me, I want to email from my actual Outlook email address. So jack.walther@syvantis.com. So I'm going to just send an email. And what this is going to do, again, if you've never connected to the Outlook one here, this is where it will prompt you for your Office 365 credential. I am connected here, so it already knows how to use my user. So then from there, what I'm going to do is say who it goes to. And in this case, you could have this go to whoever you want, but I'm just going to have it go to me because this is a demo. And then you could say what you want that email to say. So I want to say new account created. And then I want to give the name of the account so it's easy to understand an email. Now, one kind of confusing point within Power Automate here is you see that I have account name on the right. But this isn't actually the account name I want. Each time, each of these steps above my email here records all the data points that are there. So you do want to be careful about which one you pull. In this case, I actually have two different CRM or Dynamics 365 connectors, so I have a copy of the data on each of these steps. I want to make sure I grab the one that I know is the most solid, which is going to be the one from when I created it. So if I come back to this screen here and search for account name, you'll actually see that each of the headers, these gray headers above the data points, says where it's coming from. So I want to grab the account number out of this trigger or account name. And I'm going to put it there in the message there, and in the body, you can design a full HTML email here. This is going to be very generic for this demo. I just want the account name here, and then I just want to see what the account number was that we generated for it. So I can just put that variable, mixing and matching data. You can do as much or as little as you want in these emails. You can have it sent from various systems. You could send it from a Gmail if you want. It's really all whatever you want to do inside of Power Automate. So then from there, I have my workflow. When an account is created here, it's then going to go and decide what a account number is based off a random number. Again, apply your own real logic there. Then it's going to check to see if that account had a number. If it did, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to send me an email saying a new account was created. But if it didn't have a number, it's going to automatically update that account with this random number that we generated up here. All I have to do from there is click save in the upper right corner, and this account or this workflow is now live. And technically, I probably should add a name. You'll see that the workflow is actually named a generic name that Microsoft applies to it, but you can change this to whatever. I'm going to leave it like that for now. And now my workflow, my Power Automate workflow is live. You can see that it's on. The status is on. If I wanted to turn it off, I could, but we're going to let it run. So now from here, I can kind of demonstrate how that works. So right now I can see nothing is run yet, but if I go back to CRM here, and I click, let me start from scratch here. If I go to my accounts and I click new, and I'm going to say fast class demo. That's all I'm going to do for this account. The account number is blank there. I click save. Nothing happens from what you can see in CRM because it's all happening in Power Automate, in the background here. But if I come back to my workflow and then I refresh runs, sometimes it takes a second or two for it to actually go and generate over here. So we'll give it a second to register new ones there. So now it picked up that a new account's been added. You can see it running. This actually gives the full status of when it started, when it finished, and where its progress is. If I click refresh there, it says it succeeded. And then from there, if I come back into my account here and I refresh that page, I guess I did something wrong there. My account number didn't generate. So let's see what we had going on. We can go through and we can take a look at the actual run here. So I could see all the data that came through here. And then we can see that we have a string here generated 3,913. And then we could see what I had here. So it looks like it failed on this condition. It found that it didn't meet it there. So then I can come back in here. I can take a look at what's going on there and why that didn't run. Let's see. So we've got account number. All right, this is the reason. So I put the wrong variable there. If I expand, you can actually hover over it and you can see what it's looking at there. So instead of putting account number check, you could see that I put the body name, which means I pulled the name field, which is not what I wanted. So let me go through and I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to put account number here. So I used the wrong condition there. I'm going to grab the right one there. Now I can hover over it and see that it does say account number there. And I'm going to click save. Now, one of the cool things you can do in Power Automate is I don't have to go back and create another account to make this run properly. What I can do is I can go over to test. And what test is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to go to the automatically option on the right. And it's going to say, do you want to just rerun one of the previous runs? In this case, I do. I know it's going to be the same data coming through and I just want to go update that account number. So I'm going to click run there and it's actually going to show me real time where it's at in that run. So we can kind of walk it through and it's going to see my new correction there. So it found my account information. It did generate the number and now it found that the number was blank. So it updated it and then it sent my email here. So now if we come back to CRM, now it should have updated that account number field, which it did with that new random number. And then it also sent me an email here, which you guys can see. Again, this is very generic, but you could have this email say whatever you want. So now it's there. So now every time you go and add a new account, I'm going to just put gibberish here. It's going to go through and run that logic every single time. So we can go through and see exactly what happened. So I triggered that flow there by creating a new account. The third run should have gone, so it did succeed already. Let me refresh. And there it is. So this is a very basic flow. you know, you could see, again, this isn't necessarily a real world scenario. You'd probably apply a lot more logic to that account number. In this case, you know, this could, in theory, create duplicates, which you don't want. So you can add all sorts of checks and balances in this, make sure it works exactly the way you want, but it is just that easy. You know, I didn't really write any code there at all. And now I've got a whole system working that can speak between multiple applications. I've got email, I've got CRM, and again, you could go basically anywhere else, anywhere you want with it. So that's how easy it is to hook up Power Automate inside of Dynamics 365 here, and really any other system. All right, so that's all I got for you here. Again, if you had any questions or any other suggestions for next classes that you want to see, make sure to drop them in the chat below here. Next week, we do have a fast class on creating custom permission sets in Business Central. So log in next week so you can take a look at that. All right, thanks.